The fog was thick, the highway eerily quiet. Drivers rushed past, blind to what lay just beyond the shoulder. But when a U.S. Marine veteran slowed his truck, he froze. 3 dogs were sprawled in the dirt, starving, shaking, and barely alive. Their ribs showed. Their eyes begged for help, but time was slipping away. Most would have said it was hopeless, that nothing could be done. But this Marine had lived through battles where seconds meant the difference between life and death. He knew one thing. He couldn't leave them. What happened next turned a desperate roadside rescue into a story that shocked an entire community and proved the power of loyalty, courage, and second chances. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The morning was wrapped in a heavy fog that blanketed the highway in silence. A U.S. Marine veteran, driving home after a long night shift, slowed his truck when something unusual caught his eye along the shoulder. At first, he thought it was debris, scattered near the grass. But as he drew closer, his stomach tightened. These weren't objects. They were living beings. 3 dogs lay motionless by the roadside, their bodies weak and trembling. That he pulled over. Immediately, boots crunching against the wet gravel as he approached. The sight nearly broke him. One German shepherd lay on its side, chest rising faintly as though each breath was a battle. Beside him, 2 Rottweilers barely stirred, their ribs visible beneath matted fur, eyes glazed with exhaustion. Cars sped past without slowing, their headlights vanishing into the fog as if the suffering on the roadside didn't exist. The Marine knelt beside the shepherd, his hand trembling as he checked for a pulse. A faint thump answered him. Alive, but barely. The memory of comrades fallen in battle surged back to him, and with it the same gut-deep resolve. He couldn't walk away. Not now, not from them. The Marine knelt there, his breath misting in the cold air, his mind torn between logic and instinct. Logic whispered that this wasn't his fight. He could call animal control, wait for professionals, and move on with his day. But instinct, the same instinct that once kept him alive and foreign. Battlefields screamed louder. These animals were warriors in their own right, fighting for life with no one else to stand beside them. He looked down at the German shepherd whose faint whimper echoed in his ears. It reminded him of the sound wounded soldiers made on the battlefield, pleas that still haunted his nights. The Rottweilers, too weak to lift their heads, blinked slowly as if asking one question. Will you help us or leave us? His fists tightened. Memories surged of brothers in uniform, of loyalty and sacrifice, of the oath he once swore never to abandon those in need. He wasn't a soldier anymore, but that part of him had never died. Walking away might have been easier, but it would have betrayed everything he stood for. The Marine rose to his feet, heart pounding with resolve. The decision was made. He would fight for them. The Marine grabbed a half-empty water bottle from his truck and returned to the docks. Kneeling, he uncapped it and slowly poured a thin stream near the German shepherd's muzzle. For a moment, there was nothing. Then a weak flick of the tongue. Relief surged through him. That's it, buddy. Stay with me, he whispered, voice trembling with urgency that he moved to the Rottweilers, dribbling water into their mouths. Their bodies shivered faintly, proof that some fight still lingered inside them. Each swallow felt like a small victory, but their frail condition made every movement dangerous. He had to be gentle, cautious, and patient, even as adrenaline urged him to move faster. Time was against them. Determined, he opened the truck's tailgate and returned with an old blanket and a pair of gloves. One by one, he lifted the dogs. The shepherd was heavy, muscles limp, but the Marine hoisted him into his arms as though carrying a fallen comrade. His legs strained, yet he refused to let go. He laid the shepherd carefully in the truck, then returned for the Rottweilers, whispering words of encouragement as if they could understand. By the time he secured them all, sweat dripped from his brow despite the cool morning air. He glanced at their weak, rising chests, fear gnawing at him. Every instinct told him this was just the beginning of the battle. Without immediate help, the dogs wouldn't last. He climbed into the driver's seat, heart pounding. The race against time had begun. The truck roared to life, tires spitting gravel as the Marine merged back onto the foggy highway. His hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. Every glance in the rear view mirror sent a fresh wave of panic through him. The three dogs lay sprawled on the blanket, their chests rising and falling unevenly, their breaths shallow. Each second counted, and he knew it. Flashes of memory hit him like gunfire. He remembered speeding through war-torn roads and armored convoys, carrying wounded soldiers while the clock ticked against them. The look in their eyes was the same as the dogs now, pleading, fragile, desperate to hold on. The past and present blurred until his heart pounded like a war drum. He pressed harder on the accelerator, weaving between cars, ignoring the honks of impatient drivers. Hold on, he muttered, his voice cracking as if sheer willpower could keep them alive. The German shepherd twitched, letting out a faint whimper, and his chest tightened. It was as if the animal knew he was fighting for them. Signs for the veterinary clinic finally appeared through the fog, a beacon in the distance. His throat burned as he whispered to himself, almost there, just a little longer. He couldn't lose them now, not after making the choice to fight as he swung into the clinic parking lot and slammed the brakes. He leapt from the truck, ready to carry them in with every ounce of strength left in him. The real battle was about to begin. The clinic doors burst open as a Marine staggered inside, carrying the limp German shepherd in his arms. "They're dying," he shouted, his voice raw with desperation. Two staff members rushed forward with a gurney, while another grabbed the Rottweilers from the truck. The sterile scent of antiseptic mixed with the pounding of his heart as chaos erupted around him. Veterinarians and technicians swarmed, attaching for lines, checking pulses, and administering oxygen. The Marine stood frozen for a moment, his chest heaving, watching strangers fight for the dogs' lives as fiercely as he had on the roadside. But the weight of helplessness sank into him. He was a man trained to act, to protect, yet here he could do nothing but wait. Minutes felt like hours. He pressed his palms together, whispering silent prayers he hadn't uttered since the battlefield. Every beep of the monitors made him flinch. Every shallow breath from the dogs twisted deeper into his chest. He paced and stopped, then paced again, unable to tear his eyes away from the thin line between life and death unfolding before him. Finally, a vet pulled down her mask and turned to him. "They're critical, but we're stabilizing them. They have a chance." Relief slammed into him so hard his knees nearly buckled. He leaned against the wall, tears burning his eyes as a truth settled deep in his heart. This battle wasn't won yet, but they were fighters just like him, and together they weren't giving up. Days turned into weeks, and each visit to the clinic brought new hope. The German shepherd, once too weak to lift his head, now wagged his tail when the Marine entered The Rottweilers, once skeletal shadows of themselves, began eating heartily and pressing their faces against his hands. For comfort, slowly the shadows of death lifted, replaced by life and loyalty. The staff marveled at the transformation, but none were more moved than the Marine himself. Each recovery step mirrored his own journey. Wounded, scarred, but refusing to surrender. Watching the dogs fight back reminded him of the resilience he once relied on. In battle, a resilience he thought he had lost. Through them, he found healing. Word of the rescue spread through the community. Neighbors stopped by to thank him. Donations poured into the clinic, and people hailed him as a hero. But when asked, he always pointed to the dogs. They're the real heroes, he said softly. They never gave up. At last, the day came when all three dogs walked beside him, strong and full of life. The Marine looked at them with quiet pride, whispering words only they needed to hear. We saved each